Hari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari Shodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamunati Ravanachari Jamunati Ravanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Gaudapada Paramahansa Parivajikacharya Stottarashada Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Grantaraja Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are reading today Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 27, Attack by Chandavega on the city of Puranjana, text number 17. Please repeat. Shiyamane swasambandhe ekasmin bahubhir yudha chintam param jagamartha sarashtra pura bandhavaha kshiyamane swasambandhe ekasmin bahubhir yudha chintam param jagamartha sarashtra pura bandhavaha. Shiyamane swasambandhe ekasmin bahubhir yudha chintam param jagamartha sarashtra pura ban. Matajis. Shiyamane swasambandhe Kshiyamane, when he became weak. Swasambandhe, his intimate friend. Ekasmin, alone. Bahubhihi, with many warriors. Yudha, by battle. Chintam, anxiety. Param, very great. Jagama, obtained. Arthaha, being aggrieved. Sa, along with. Rashtra, of the kingdom. Pura, of the city. Bandhavaha, friends and relatives. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Because he had to fight alone with so many soldiers, all of whom were great warriors, the serpent with 5 hoods became very weak. Seeing that his most intimate friend was weakening, King Puranjana and his friends and citizens living within the city all became very anxious. Please repeat the translation. Because he had to fight alone with so many soldiers, all of whom were great warriors, the serpent with 5 hoods became very weak. Seeing that his most intimate friend was weakening, King Puranjana and his friends and citizens living within the city all became very anxious. Purport. The living entity resides within the body and struggles for existence with the limbs of the body, which are referred to here as citizens and friends. One can struggle alone with many soldiers for some time, but not for all time. The living entity within the body can struggle up to the limit of 100 years with good luck, but after that it is not possible to prolong the struggle. Thus the living entity submits and falls victim. In this regard, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has sung Vridha Kala Aula Sabha Sukha Bhagala. When one becomes old, it becomes impossible to enjoy material happiness. Generally, people think that religion and piety come at the end of life, and at this time one generally becomes meditative and takes to some so-called yogic process to relax in the name of meditation. Meditation, however, is simply a farce for those who have enjoyed life in sense gratification. As described in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, meditation, dhyana dharana, is a difficult subject matter that one has to learn from his very youth. To meditate, one must restrain himself from all kinds of sense gratification. Unfortunately, meditation has now become a fashion for those who are overly addicted to sensual things. Such meditation is defeated by the struggle for existence. Sometimes such meditative processes pass for transcendental meditation. King Puranjana, the living entity, being thus victimized by the hard struggle for existence, took to transcendental meditation with his friends and relatives. Om Jnana-tamarandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Didati Swapadantikam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasa Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Kshiyamane swasambandhe ekasmin bahubhir yudha Chintam param jaga marta sarastra purabandavaha. Because he had to fight alone with so many soldiers, all of whom were great warriors, the serpent with 5 hoods became very weak. Seeing that his most intimate friend was weakening, King Puranjana and his friends and citizens living within the city all became very anxious. So this was mentioned yesterday in Nityananda Prabhu's class, that the snake is going to become weak because of fighting alone with 720 soldiers of Chandavega, or the days and nights of the year. The living force is pushing forward through the pummeling of time. So eventually he cannot persevere. Srila Prabhupada says that one can struggle alone with many soldiers for some time, but not for all time. So Krishna has given us actually an amazing capacity to even live and progress within this material world. Because factually speaking, the material energy is immovable. Can't do anything with it. But Krishna has provided some opportunity to act for some time in this atmosphere. But it's not eternal, as we were hearing, as we already know, but it's very limited. And for everyone who's under the clutches of their previous karma, it's very determined. There's no opportunity for him to make any advancement in life beyond whatever his allotted time span may be. So the snake of our life energy will fight for our survival in material sense as long as it can, but it's predestined to lose that battle. So King Puranjana and his friends, everyone living within the city, in other words, the body and the person who's identifying with the body, they're all becoming very anxious or despondent. Artaha, being aggrieved, because we're losing the battle. In the Ishopanishad, Mantra 2, Srila Prabhupada explains that there is no living entity that doesn't want to keep living, to drag on as long as he possibly can, because that's the nature of living entity. Living entity means that his nature is that he's living. It doesn't say for a little while living entity. Living entity is alive. His nature is to be alive, so naturally he wants to keep living. But he's in a situation that doesn't allow for that to go on eternally. The body can't live forever. The body is not a living entity. The body is matter that's animated by the presence of a living entity through the grace of the Super Soul, specifically, Supreme Personality of Godhead. But he wants to live on like that. So he has an opportunity. The next mantra, not the next mantra, but mantra 2, the verse itself explains that if he lives with the consciousness that there is a supreme authority, then the same rules of material energy don't apply to that person. Just as we were hearing yesterday, somebody asked the question, well, what about a devotee? Or what about Krishna's intervention in this whole thing? Time or material energy is under his control, so how is it that, somebody who is protected by Krishna is affected by this, what we're hearing, the effect of the soldiers of time? And the answer is that there isn't that effect, or that doesn't apply in the case of a devotee, one who's actually under the control of Krishna. The same rules don't apply. So here we're hearing about somebody who's not under the control of Krishna, somebody who's a very heavily mixed religious person. So for one who is actually constantly engaged in service to Krishna, Mam evaye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite, Krishna can remove him from the jurisdiction of the material energy because he's taking shelter of the spiritual energy. So, that is the only opportunity to live eternally. And it's not just that one wants to live eternally for the sake of being alive, but one wants to continue to experience happiness. So some living entities like King Puranjana here, Srila Prabhupada is describing, the verse doesn't give us that much detail, but Srila Prabhupada does. Wants us to understand this point, that sort of pious person like this, who is enjoying piously sense gratification, may have the conception that when I become older, then religious life will be important. When I become older, then there's the time for meditation and all these, removing myself from the materialistic pursuits of life kind of activities. Not right now. Now I still have the strength. Now my five-footed serpent is, lashing very strongly back at the material energy. I can keep going for a while, so why slow down? Why should I worry about that meditation stuff at this point? Let me worry about that when I'm older. We've heard Srila Prabhupada, or I've heard many persons express like this, that, they would, not particularly them, but some saintly person, devotee, would ask someone, why not take to Krishna consciousness now? Or how about your sons and daughters? Why not engage them in spiritual life? No. That's for when you become older. Now is the time to improve your material situation. You have your education, and now you can get a nice job, and your family can be developed. And then when it's time for retirement, all of this can be considered. But Srila Prabhupada explains that yoga or meditation that's performed by someone who spent their whole life in sense gratification is a farce. The idea that you're going to be able to actually do something spiritual at the end of your life when you've spent your whole life, try to think of something that's not slang words, wasting time, not engaging in yoga. It's a farce for a couple of reasons. One, as we're hearing in this verse, the life has become weakened, or one's energy is decreased. So right now we have some youth, most of us, or to whatever degree we have some youth remaining. That is a big part of our capacity to really engage in service activities. Right? The body, although it's not something that we require as a soul, is very important for the conditioned soul to utilize for the purpose of purifying his conceptions about who he is. We have to engage in devotional activities that send a message, send the conception to the mind that I am the servant of Krishna. That's how we are engaging ourselves. It's not just because I have to be busy doing stuff, An idle mind is a devil's workshop, so let me just do a bunch of stuff to keep me from thinking about bad things. That's not exactly what we're doing. Rather, we're engaging in specific activities with the conception that I am the servant of Krishna, of Krishna's devotees, so that my conception becomes I am the servant of Krishna. I am the servant of Krishna's devotees. Gopi Bhartu Pura Kamalayor Das Das and Das. We're developing that conception with our body, right? Because we don't know how to act without our body. Anybody here who knows how to act without their body, you can please explain to me how it's done. It's not possible, because that's our conception of life at this point. So the body is very important, and the energy that the body has, the vital life force that allows the body to perform these activities very, determinedly, consistently, is very important. A person who is worn out and without capacity to engage in devotional activities is at a disadvantage. They're not disqualified. Devotional service doesn't require you having a strong body. It's not one of the qualifications. You can perform devotional service simply with your mouth, with your tongue, with your belly, with your eyes and ears, and you don't have to be able to run and walk and lift and jump and all these things necessarily. But factually speaking, it's much easier to engage one's energy in Krishna consciousness when one has life left, when one is younger, to be able to really very strongly engage himself in devotional activities to drive out the misconceptions about who he is. Otherwise, we would all just be told, come back when you're a little bit older and you don't have so much important material activities to do. It's not like that. Use the time that you have now. So, those who have waited or think that the idea is valuable, then I'm going to wait till the end of life to become religious or meditative. It's not going to work. We're fighting with the mind to release the conception that I am a sense gratifier, that I can enjoy in the material world. We're fighting with that. We're using our intelligence, we're using our, strength of, attention and all of that. If you see old age, generally people are falling asleep and they're, kind of slow and like to think, they're slow to make decisions, they're slow. It's not a fault. It's the fact of the workings of the body. All these things make it much more difficult to be able to harness the power of the mind for absorbing us in Krishna consciousness. And a person who has just enjoyed their whole life and filled their, current existence with sense gratification, to think that at the end of life somehow they're going to sit down and be able to remove all of that, it's very difficult. Not a good idea, to say the least, but very difficult also, because the body is not accustomed to engaging in yoga. It's accustomed to something else. So Srila Prabhupada is pointing out specifically this process of so-called transcendental meditation. When Srila Prabhupada came to the United States, he stayed with one person, Dr. Mishra, I think was his name, who was a quote-unquote yogi. And most of his students were, can't say all of them, but a lot of them discussed in the Lilamrita were old women who, after living their life of opulence or whatever, have nothing to show for it, and so are looking for some substance. So they go to this man who smoked and ate meat and all of this, by the way. So he's not a real yoga practitioner. But anyway, they were looking for something. So this kind of transcendental meditation has been very popular for years and years in the United States specifically, because old people have a lot of money and they don't know what to do with it, so they pay some guy to make them feel like they're doing something nice when their capacity for sense gratification is gone. So he's pointing out the fault with this idea of transcendental meditation in old age. What's transcendental about it? It's not even bona fide, what to speak of actually transcendental. So there's no benefit. But King Puranjana with his friends, as they saw the city weakening, they, Srila Prabhupada is saying, took to transcendental meditation, or they thought, oh, now's the time for us to become a little, religious, or meditative, I should say. But it's to no avail in the ultimate issue. So there's an alternative, obviously, to waiting for this unfortunate fate, and that is to utilize the body properly. The serpent of 5 hoods here is figuratively representing the life airs in the body. And for a yoga practitioner, the life airs can be utilized for Srila Prabhupada says, searching out self-realization. They can be trained in such a way that they aid the body to survive even for a long time. Srila Prabhupada discusses this. The yogis, it's also discussed in chapter 4 of Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada, the yogis know how to balance the in-breathing and the out-breathing so that the breath comes to a standstill, and that way one's preserving his life air so that he doesn't expend his life so quickly, and therefore he can live for a long time, to be able to try within this lifetime to reach self-realization. Some persons, Krishna says, do like that. That's their particular type of yoga. So this snake's power can be prolonged if one doesn't use it the way that King Puranjana did, by enjoying, continuing to try to enjoy, but rather just using it for self-realization in one way or another. So we're not doing the yoga process of controlling the breath, incoming and outgoing process exactly. We're not sitting down to meditation and trying to live for hundreds of years. But as that second mantra of Sri Upanishad states, one who works in the consciousness of Krishna, or that the supreme authority is there, let me act under that authority. He's actually controlling the breath properly, seeking out self-realization through his life. Jivasya tattva jigyasa. His life is being used for searching out the supreme. He's not sitting down and balancing the breath and searching within for the Hiranyagarbha, the super soul. Rather, he's searching through the process of bhakti yoga. Let me utilize every breath that I have to understand my relationship with Krishna. It's the same result. It's the same result, although we don't think of it that way. I'm not controlling my breath. But we are controlling our breath, just like we're controlling our hands and tongues. And it's all being utilized for service, whatever that service may be, as long as it's actually devotional service to Krishna. Then, however one is using the body, that will bring him to the desired goal. And the main point that I wanted to make with this verse, which is here in the beginning of the translation in Srila Prabhupada's first part of his purport, is because he's fighting alone with so many soldiers. Therefore, he's becoming weak. Srila Prabhupada says, you can fight alone for some time, but you can't keep going like that. It's impossible by yourself to be able to deal with so many things. So this is like a theme of religious life, right? Don't go it alone, you know. God is there with you, kind of thing. It's described by Krishna in a couple places in the Bhagavad Gita, at least, you know. As I already quoted, Daivihesha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mam eva ye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. One who surrenders to me can overcome this never-ending struggle with my energy, which he'll never be able to overcome otherwise. And in the 12th chapter, Krishna says, one who constantly meditates on my personal form, I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. Because he's relying on me, he's focusing on me, he's making me the center of his activities. He's not fighting alone with time. He's not under the impression that he's fighting time even. He's simply under the impression that I'm utilizing time for service to Krishna. And that's what Srila Prabhupada says in his purport to that second mantra of Sri Upanishad, is that whatever activities you take up, even family activities, even altruistic activities, whatever ism it may be, that's okay, provided you recognize the authority of the Lord. Ishavasya idam sarvam. Provided that you recognize that there's an authority. You're not just struggling with the material energy. You're not just pushing forward a little more time, so I can accomplish what I want to accomplish through this circumstance. Because time will ultimately defeat you. if that's your pursuit. You can never accomplish what you want to accomplish, because it never ends. You're never satisfied. But if you're serving Krishna through those things, the goal is there within the activity itself. The goal is, I want to make some advancement in my Krishna consciousness. So doing the activity itself is bringing you the result. You're not waiting for some time. You're not racing against the years to try to achieve something. A devotee doesn't think like that. I have to, well, now we can clarify two different levels of devotional service. Devotees who are starting Krishna consciousness, we are in a sense of urgency. I have to utilize the time that I have now. I have the association of devotees. I have such nice facility. I have a body that's still working. I have, whatever I have. Somehow Krishna is keeping me in the realm of devotional service, which at any time can be taken away from me if I slip and forget that I want to be Krishna's servant. So let me use this opportunity to strengthen my Krishna consciousness, to become fixed, gain real attraction for service, really understand that that's who I am, recognize the authority of the Lord through my activities, by acting in my activities under that authority, to come to the proper conclusion of life, who I am, what I'm supposed to be doing, to realize that, so that I can't be removed from that position, so that my consciousness is there. That's my reality. But for a devotee who is already on the platform of ecstatic love, this is described in the Nectar of Devotion, he has 9 symptoms, and one of them is that he doesn't want to waste any time. That's not because he's worried, like, oh my God, if I don't do some activities, then maybe I'll not reach the goal of life. Or, oh my God, if I act outside of the Ishavasya principle, I'll have karma, and then my life circumstance will become more difficult. He's just thinking, I'm ecstatic, I'm very happy when I serve Krishna, and I always want to be in that loving relationship. So I don't want to waste any time. I don't want to experience a moment in something less than that. Can you imagine if you could just constantly eat your favorite food, whatever the thing is, and never become tired of it? Pizza or something. Everybody always says pizza, so I don't know why. Pizza. So if you could constantly relish the same taste as the first bite that you take of a piece of pizza when you're starving, constantly, just, would you ever stop? Why would you ever stop and do something else? Maybe you would, and then you would say, wow, why did I stop? That was a stupid idea. Let me just go back to, enjoying this thing. Some people have the idea that sometimes you want to be enjoying, sometimes you want to be experiencing nice things, and sometimes you have to suffer too, because that helps you remember how nice it is to enjoy things. That's actually not what's going on. Actually, what's going on is that the thing becomes tiring after some time, so you have to go to a different circumstance. This is called bhoga tyaga. You enjoy for some time, but you can't stay there because the mind isn't satisfied with that kind of enjoyment. So you have to go back to the suffering program for some time, so that the enjoyment again seems to be a fresh experience. That's actually what's going on. It's not that a person can't enjoy perpetually. That's not what it is, because the soul is ananda. There is no opportunity for a soul to be in a suffering condition in spiritual life. Always happy, Srila Prabhupada says, that's our goal. Simply happiness, no suffering. That's where we're trying to get. Brahmabhuta prasanatma, na shochati na kangshati. It's the goal. So, a devotee who is actually advanced is constantly utilizing his time, not worrying, oh, this body is going to wear out. Sometimes it looks like that. Wow, some great devotee is becoming older and he, doesn't want to waste his time because he's becoming older or something. That's not what's going on. Srila Prabhupada wasn't worried about, I'm going to die very soon. Let me do some devotional service because this body won't be here for much longer. Jivava marova. You live or die, it doesn't make any difference. It's the same thing. So they're also utilizing time, but they're not utilizing it with the concern that if I don't, then I'm going to end up like King Paranjana, tired and unable to perform devotional service. So that's the best position to be in. Not, pretending like I'm going to be able to be spiritual when I'm older after I've wasted my life energy, and beyond, struggling to utilize our time to develop our Krishna consciousness. So, in other words, Srila Prabhupada's theme, don't think that yoga and meditation can wait. We have to develop our capacity to be connected to Krishna, so that whatever the bodily circumstance is, ahaitukiya pratihata, there's no cessation of that devotional service, and we can be actually blissful. Yayatma suprasiditi. Okay, any comments or questions? Class is over pretty much. Yes, Mataji, go ahead, you're not here.
Purport, it mentions, or you've been talking about how people generally become pious at the end of their lives, or they think that's the idea. And it reminded me of a conversation, or I guess it was an interview between Srila Prabhupada and some reporter, and they asked him, why are so many young people coming, attracted to this movement? And he said, young, old means near death, so can you tell me when these people are going to die? In other words, death could come at any moment, so we should take to Krishna consciousness. And then I also was wondering, you were speaking about bhoga tyag, and how the mind becomes tired of certain activities and has to change from one thing to another. So sometimes, I guess I'm a little apprehensive that familiarity can breed contempt. So how do you have any advice for people who are coming to the temple often, or going to come to the temple more often, just not to become too familiar?
I was just talking to somebody about this the other day, maybe yesterday, that we have to always keep our experience fresh, because otherwise it will be on the mental platform for some time. One devotee, Mahavishnu Prabhu, was talking about that in his Sunday feast class. I was dressing the deities, so I didn't get to hear everything that he was saying, but I heard him saying that you have to develop a taste for these activities, otherwise your devotional service has an expiration date. You won't be able to continue because of that particular reason. After some time it will become hackneyed, or familiarity breeds contempt. So we have to be constantly going deeper, like I was expressing, to really change my conception of who I am, which is, not a short process. So if we're constantly focused on that, if our business is self-realization, and we're actually digging into that, not just how can I be content for another day, rather how can I actually realize that I'm Krishna's servant, how can I really be satisfied just serving Krishna, then that's a progressive, ever fresh process, because Krishna, if we're sincere, actually we're doing that, he will give us more and more insight to inspire us forward in our Krishna consciousness. So that's how, don't be contented, don't be comfortable with where I am now. Constantly strive for actual self-realization, and that process will be ever fresh. At least for us. On a higher stage, one is constantly seeking better and better ways to serve Krishna, or that can be also our meditation. It's the same thing in essence, but different perspective. How can I serve Krishna better? That also is a never-ending thing. Contemplation, because we're not perfect, and we can never be perfect. So if we're constantly seeking, how can I improve my service to Krishna, it will be unlimitedly fresh thing. Whereas if I'm just looking for how can I feel happy, here, there, I'll be happy over here for some time, happy over there for some time. So we'll change our position. I'll stop there. Hopefully that's satisfactory. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Yes. Oh.